This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association. Your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, and Mark Magnuson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Riley Smith.
Good day and welcome to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Riley Smith. Today is Thursday, March 28th of 2024. We are so glad you can join us for today's show. In today's episode, which will be the last episode before the Easter holiday, I have an update on the construction going on at the Iowa State Fairgrounds, some renovations being made to the sheep barn. Sat down with Iowa State Fair CEO Jeremy Parsons to talk about that, as well as the fundraising effort behind it. And we will also have a check of the markets, and we'll go ahead and dive into how those markets closed at the end of today, with today being a bit of a big report day.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net.
At the end of another trading day in the ag marketplace, we're here with Kaden Sweeney of agmarket.net. And of course, today being a big report day for the ag marketplace in general. But first off, with that quarterly grain stocks and acreage report, Kaden, what do we see the grain markets doing today in reaction to that?
Yeah, certainly a big report today, and the result of it was big as well. If you just look at the close today, you're going to see corn up about 15 cents, oil and new crop beans quite a bit quieter, either side of unchanged there. But it's been a rough week for the corn market. Finally got for all the bad news that the USDA takes on, all the heat that they take, they did us a favor today. Expect planted acres for 2024, 90.0 million. Trade estimates going into today about 91.7, 91.8. So certainly a bullish surprise there. Grain stocks on hand also a bit lower. So a really good report for corn overall. Beans, I would call it neutral to mixed, but the corn markets can be stealing all the headlines over the weekend.
And, the grain markets in general were kind of quiet throughout the whole week, positioning themselves ahead of the report. And from what I've heard so far on the report is that it was mostly a friendly or slightly neutral report in some markets. But just the fact that there was any sort of positive news kind of just made them jump and react to it, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at total acres and not just corn and beans, if you look at all principal acres across the U.S., the USDA is showing a cut of about 6 million acres from last year. So obviously, less acres you would think would result in less supply, which is generally friendly to prices. Like I said, corn was down, really been down all week. We were kind of on either side of even going into the report, and going to close up stronger today. 15 cents or so. Beans were down double digits going into the report, and we're going to close the May even and November new crop up 4. So certainly a good number there. Wheat's up double digits as well. I mean, it really is a good report. I just think the risk of it is I think if you're a farmer, you've got to be tailoring your marketing plan and being aggressive with this report. I don't think it's one that you want to just stick in your back pocket and go about the day, because I don't necessarily feel like we're out of the woods yet as far as having a large carryout for 24. I think you still want to be marketing this thing pretty aggressively.
And then, of course, we have a long holiday weekend as well. So, they have a lot of time to process that information coming out. So are we expecting this to continue into next week? Or I guess, the question here is how intense is this news coming out today?
I think it's going to be pretty intense. It's never real fun to have a big report followed by a 3-day weekend. You just have, it's almost like, sitting on holding a beach ball underwater. It just wants to, you get a lot of intensity built up over the weekend. But if you look, last week, early in the middle of the week, we made a high in corn overnight up around 446 on the May contract. And we went up today and got 448, very similar. On new crop beef as well, we got 480 last week, and our high today is 481. So we hit that resistance. It's going to remain to be seen if we can get, enough momentum behind this thing to get back up through those resistances, get December new crop, inching closer to $5. I think it's going to take a big push, probably something of the weather sort, to get through $5, just because, everybody and their brother is going to have orders in to sell $5 corn. But Monday's open going to be very interesting. I would expect to see corn open higher. Where it closes on Monday is going to be the big question.
And then looking at the livestock side of things, not as much excitement there today, but how are those settling towards the end of today?
Yeah, you're right. Not as much as excitement. Today the grains dominated the news cycle, but all three feeders, fats, and hogs all going to close green today. Fat cattle up $1.50, feeders 25 cents, and hogs up 50 cents. So feeders seem to have stabilized a bit after the sell off on Tuesday. Had kind of a poor report come out on last Friday that traded into this week. Overall, though, I think you've kind of seen that market stabilize. Hog market seems to continue to have some strength there. So, again, in a day dominated by the grain markets and the news there, we did manage to close livestock all green as well.
Lots of great information today, Kaden. For those of our listeners who are looking to get more information from agmarket.net, how can they do that?
Yeah, just go to our website, agmarket.net, and you can reach anyone from our team there. And it's a really good time to be doing so, in my opinion. Try to get a marketing plan kind of set in stone here before we get busy planting and whatnot. A lot of times we see seasonal highs here while we're in the field. So be sure to reach out to us, and we're happy to help.
Great talking with you as always, Kaden. We look forward to getting more great analysis from you soon, and enjoy the long Easter weekend.
Yeah, sounds good, guys. Appreciate it. Have a great Easter.
That again was Kaden Sweeney of agmarket.net. We'll take a look at how the numbers closed through the market window at iowaagnet.com.
May corn up 15 1/4 at 442 even. May soybeans down 1 even at 1191 1/2. May soybean meal down 130 at 337.70. Soybean oil up 28 cents at 47.95. Chicago wheat up 12 3/4 at 560 1/4. Kansas City hard red wheat up 7 even at 585 1/4. Minneapolis spring wheat down 4 1/2 at 646 1/2. May oats up 2 even at 357 even. On the Merc, April live cattle up 140 at 185 even. April feeders up 25 cents at 247.12. Lean hogs up 52 at 86.62. Pork cutout up 12 at 95.62. And April cluster milk down a dime at 15.54.
And that's been a check of the markets here on Ag Matters PM. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break to hear from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff. When we come back, I have a conversation with Iowa State Fair CEO Jeremy Parsons about how that construction is going on the sheep barn at the fairgrounds. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
Welcome back to Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Riley Smith. Well, if you drive through the Iowa State Fairgrounds right now, you'll see and hear some construction going on at the sheep barn. Visitors and exhibitors have been looking forward to seeing some renovations, and thankfully these renovations will be made while preserving the historic livestock barns. I had the chance to sit down with Iowa State Fair CEO Jeremy Parsons and talk about the renovations in detail, as well as the fundraising behind them.
Obviously, a lot of things going on in the off season, and that might be something that people aren't thinking as much about. Is it's not just 11 days during August that we're working on the fair; it's all year round. And right now, we're working on a lot of the livestock barns to kind of add some quality of life improvements. First off, Jeremy, just tell us a bit about what barns are being worked on right now and some of the changes that they're seeing.
Sure. So you think back, I think it's 2 or 3 years ago, the Iowa State Fair announced this $25 million renovation of the livestock barns. Obviously a partnership between the state legislature and the Iowa State Fair Blue Ribbon Foundation partnering up to really make these renovations. And when you think about the livestock barns at the Iowa State Fair, all of them more than 100 years old or at the 100-year mark. So really a need to update them, not only for the fairgoer, but also for the exhibitor. And so we started right away ahead of the 23 fair in the sheep barn. That project has continued through the winter. A bulk of it will be completed prior to the 2024 fair. We have a little bit to do right after the fair, but then we can check the first of the 4 barns off the list.
And of course, these quality of life changes aren't just, maybe renovations to the roof. We're looking at accessibility, all those kinds of different things. So for the sheep barn in particular, what are we seeing going on there right now?
Yeah, well, first you look at, I guess, the pretty part of the sheep barn, that beautiful terracotta blue tile with the ram's head. And so we're restoring all of the brick and all that terracotta masonry. And again, that building built in 1915, that brick needs a lot of tuck pointing, a lot of work. We've remodeled all of the office spaces. We've also remodeled the restrooms in there, but also added restrooms. Obviously, when that barn was built in 1915, there wasn't the ADA. There were different requirements for the number of toilets and showers and sinks, for example. So all of the sheep barn restrooms will be brand new, either remodeled or new construction, and brought up to speed, really, for the new world, for lack of better words. New underground storm sewer was put all under the barn, around the barn, the exterior of the barn. New sunshade to protect the exhibitors and the livestock when they're in that show ring. Of course, we've also replaced all the roofing and the wood sheathing. If you're in the sheep barn right now and look up, you see a lot of brand new lumber up there in the roof. And then finally, the whole thing's going to get repainted on the interior. So it really will be a building to be proud of for the next several years after about $6 million of work in it.
And you've alluded to this already, and I know a lot of people were concerned about this when they first heard about renovations, and especially to that main arch. They're like, well, is it going to be the same sheep barn? Because there's a lot of history and stories that have been, taking place in that barn, and that's one of the things that was very important, right? Was just maintaining that building, and it's not, replacing the old. It's making sure that it's, still continuing for other people to enjoy.
That's really what all of our work is about here at the Iowa State Fair. And the Blue Ribbon Foundation, of course, raising millions of dollars over the last 30 years. But it's all about protecting the tradition of the fair, but yet making those facilities, modern for today. Again, I mentioned restrooms. When those restrooms were built and have been remodeled over the years, they were not handicap accessible. And obviously, we want the sheep barn to be accessible for all people. And so that's really the mantra through all of these barn renovations is preserving that history. 100 years of 4-Hers and FFA and open class exhibitors have used those barns. So protecting that history of what that sheep barn or hog barn or cattle barn or horse barn should look like, but yet at the same time making it functional for today's world.
And then, of course, you highlighted the Blue Ribbon Foundation, and just funding for these barns in general is a monumental task, and it's something that I think that at the Iowa State Fair or just in the state of Iowa in general, we're really lucky to have organizations that are so willing to put that in and make sure that the fair is the best that it can be. So if we can just highlight a little bit on that funding process,
Sure.
Where that's coming from, and how it's being used.
Well, the biggest supporter, one of the biggest cheerleaders of the Iowa State Fair, we're very fortunate, is Governor Reynolds and the Iowa State Legislature. And so $12 million was appropriated for this project through the state. So we're fortunate to have state money involved. But then our Blue Ribbon Foundation has gotten to work, and they've raised the other $13 million to get us to that $25 million. We also know that doing construction in today's world is difficult. There are a lot of increased costs, supply chain issues still post-pandemic, all those types of things. So we also, as a fair, have set aside some of our own funds because we really want to do these renovations and this restoration work right and not be somewhat limited by a budget, for lack of better words. Obviously, a budget is very important. I don't want anyone to think we're foolishly spending money, but we're also aware that $25 million may not be enough to do what we really need to do in those 4 barns. And so we're really excited, again, to continue that partnership with our foundation to raise those funds. A lot of Iowans they want to preserve these barns. The Back the Barn campaign, for example, that the foundation is currently doing for a $3,000 gift, you get a belt buckle. That's key. That's key to really making sure these barns stay around for another 100 years.
And then just real quick before we wrap up, those other barn projects will be coming in the future. Obviously, those will happen when they happen, but what are some of the things that we're looking at, when it comes to hog barn,
Sure.
beef barns and everything that, we're thinking these are things that are going to be improved?
First of all, in the swine barn, we're going to tackle that storm sewer issue. As any exhibitor knows, the swine barn becomes a lake during the fair. So we've got some storm sewer issues to tackle there, some roof issues in the swine barn. Cattle barn is going to be all about electrical. Obviously, those exhibitors need more electricity when they're getting those cattle ready for the show ring, and so we've got some electrical work to do there. Horse barn is going to involve some new stalls and really kind of an overall approach to that building similar to the sheep barn. But again, protecting the traditional elements of those buildings, but getting them ready to be used not only for the fair, but for all of our non-fair livestock shows as well.
All right, Jeremy, thanks so much for taking the time to visit today, and of course, we're looking forward to this year's Iowa State Fair.
It'll be here before we know it.
That again was Iowa State Fair CEO Jeremy Parsons. And of course, as always, we are looking forward to getting closer and closer to the month of August and the Iowa State Fair as we inch closer to that. And that's all the time we have for Ag Matters PM today. Thanks for tuning in. You can find all of our content on our website at iowaagnet.com. Also follow us on social media at Facebook, X, LinkedIn, and TikTok, and find our video content as well as previous episodes of AM PM on our YouTube channel. While you're there, subscribe and hit the notification bell to see when those videos go live. Don't forget as well to check out our free Twice Daily Market podcast on Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and Podbean. From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, I'm Riley Smith. On behalf of Mark Magnuson, Dustin Huffman, and Andy Peterson, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.